things first, I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. And if you are a Yankee fan, this is the time to be enjoying postseason baseball.
A lot of
things
good
are getting
stuff
good for them.
Great Thursday night football matchup we get to talk about.
We get to talk about football, basketball is underway.
Full night of NBA.
Yeah.
You said.
And we got some baseball to discuss. This is the most wonderful time of the year, second only to Hanukkah, obviously. Remember the 5 seconds we were concerned about the Yankees? Well, apparently we're on to second 6. Yankees beat the Astros again last night as the series now heads back to Houston with the Yankees up 3-2. Masahiro Tanaka lights out last night, went 7 strong, striking out 8. Aaron Judge addressed Tanaka's performance after this game.
You know, that's what we expected on his past couple starts have been what he usually does, you know. And he's just, all his pitches were working tonight.
He was special again. I mean, you look at his 3 starts in the playoffs, they've been special. You know, he wins the one game 1-0, I believe, the first start. And his 2 starts here have been really good. And we needed it. I mean, this was a big game for us.
CC, I'll give you credit for this. You said if the Yankees are going to do anything in this series, they're going to have to get it from their starting pitching. And every single time out, their starting pitching seems to do the one thing you said. What has been the most impressive part about this Yankees team right now?
The pitching, it's hard to look past the pitching, but the only thing that's been more impressive is their ability to hit the ball in critical situations, especially when there's 2 outs. If you look at from World Series history, they're the 3rd highest ranked percentage team, 56% of the time with 2 outs that they're getting these hits. So you're talking about a young team that maybe wasn't going to be ready for a year or 2 in the most pressure-packed situations. That's when they're coming through with their bats. I know they started off not as good, but with 2 outs in the playoffs, they've been amazing. Going with that starting pitching, that's how you're able to win a championship. So that's what the Yankees are looking at now. Came into with a lot of question marks as far as the pitching. Would it be able to hold up? But the clutch hitting, to me, is the biggest thing that I've seen in the series.
CC, I'm a numbers guy, and that number's jarring. So you're saying they've scored?
I had to steal.
No, I didn't have that one.
I got my man Dusty on the DL.
Do your thing. So
Dusty,
they've scored more than 50% of their runs this postseason with 2 outs.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. I mean, so they've been clutch in the macro and the micro, right? In the macro, they've been clutch that they've played a 1-game to keep their season going. Wild card game, they won it.
Yeah.
They faced 3 straight must-win games against Cleveland, won all 3, obviously. They fell down 2-0 to the Astros and then reeled off 3 straight wins. So clutch in that way, and then also in individual at-bat situations with 2 outs, that's when they've been scoring their runs. That's remarkable. You talked about the pitching. I want people to understand how great the pitching has been, not just in these 3 games at home, but this whole series, this entire ALCS. I don't know how many people watched the Astros. I used to live in Houston. I covered the team, so I probably watched the Astros a little more than the average Yankee fan or just the average baseball fan.
Right. If we use the football analogy, they're kind of like New England was when they were 2007. They scored all those points.
Yes. I mean, who hit who had the best batting average in baseball? The Astros. Who scored the most runs in baseball? The Astros. They were top 3 in home runs in baseball. This was a prolific offense. It has been held to 9 runs in 5 games. There is not another 5-game stretch of their entire season where they scored fewer than 9 runs. So the Astros offense has gone inept at the most critical part of their season, and part of that's because the Astros haven't been getting good at bats, whatever. Part of that's because of the Yankee pitching that you've been keying on.
And let's talk about that for a second. This guy last night, Tanaka, he's their 4th guy in their rotation. He's not their ace. He's not their 2nd guy. He could be their 3rd or their 4th guy. This is now the 2nd great performance he gave you. If you're going to talk about, last night was game 4, right?
Last night was game 5.
It was game 5. To give you 7 innings, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts, you feed off of that, right? So you want to play for a guy who's on the mound, and he wants to pitch for the guys in back of him. And once again, let's talk about what home field advantage means to this Yankee team. Because if you were at that game last night, it was something else. The crowd energy, the noise, for top to bottom in the lineup, for Tanaka on the mound, it is really something else. So now they just have to win 1. They go back to Houston right now. They have to win 1 more. let's see how they perform with a little bit of a cushion, because they have not needed a cushion up until this point.
Well, they haven't had one.
Because
they haven't had
there
a
was
cushion
nothing
up
there.
to this point.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point about Tanaka not being the number one, but if you really look at it, let's go to the All-Star break. From the All-Star break to this point, he's 7-1. Yeah. That's a number one starter. So in the critical time in the playoffs, they've picked up another number one starter that they can throw at the opposition. So it's amazing, not only his record, but batting percentages. Like, he's been amazing for several months.
That's at home. 7-1 at home with a sub-1 ERA. So, I mean, that's as good as it gets. And the home-road splits are a real thing. And for the Yankees, it's an important thing because they're not going to play another game in Yankee Stadium unless they get to the World Series. They're going to have to win one of these games on the road. They haven't lost at home this postseason. They're 1-4 on the road. But I want to, if we can, go back to the clutch thing for a second, because we talked about the team as a whole being clutch, whether it's the games or the particular innings. How about Aaron Judge? Aaron Judge this postseason with nobody on. So the least important situation for a hitter with nobody on. He's 1 for 22. One solo home run. It was a very big spot, by the way. The one hit he has with nobody on was the run that in Game 4, when they're down 4-0, that started the rally. That since then they scored 10 straight runs from Game 4 to Game 5. But with runners on this postseason, he's 7 for 18. He's got 9 RBIs. He has hit a couple home runs. So even when he was struggling, the spot where he was getting hits was the biggest spots where he can do the most damage. And now all of a sudden, Aaron, people were wondering, we love second-guessing managers. I love second-guessing managers and coaches.
Yeah.
Okay, the macro we, the sports fans. People were wondering, hey, listen, Girardi, why is Judge still batting second? Like, if the guy's going to hit 085, if you don't want to bench him, you can't bat him 8th. You can't move him down in the lineup. Why is he still batting second? Girardi left him there. And that's one of the big reasons they're up 3-2 in this series now.
If you remember what Girardi said, I mean, he's been asked multiple times, but there was a time where Girardi said he's comfortable there. That's where our lineup, I think, if everybody's hitting correctly and everybody's hitting the way they should be hitting, that's where our lineup does its best work. And he was confident to kind of go against the grain and keep everybody where they were, and it's actually starting to
That's
follow
one of the
through.
things, too, I hate in the postseason. You see managers, they move guys who were 2 and 3, and they move them down because they're not hitting well. Even we've seen some great players do it. I haven't seen an instance where that helped the player come out of a hitting slump. When you move him out of a spot that he's not comfortable, and especially Judge, the way he played late in the season, the last month of the season, how could you move him? I mean, you couldn't move him after that. So it's nice that the skipper, he stuck with the young kid.
AFC West showdown on Thursday Night Football. Chiefs and Raiders. Kansas City was handed their first loss of the season last Sunday versus the Steelers, while the Raiders have lost 4 straight. Good news here. Someone's going to win this game, one way or another. Derek Carr spoke about the matchup.
You know, you want to go out there and, beat one of the best teams in football. We have them coming to our place on a short week. So all the challenges are there. Everything, is pushing our back against the wall. But one thing I know we're going to do is we're going to come out, on Thursday night and fight.
Every rivalry is unique, and certainly the Raider one is a special one, no doubt. I think you throw that, like I said, you throw that on top of there, just trying to get ready and go. I mean, these division games, we know how much they mean. And know this will be a physical game, hard fought, I mean, all that stuff. I mean, that's what these always are.
All right, Nick, what do you expect from tonight? This is a fun game to watch, even though, one team is slightly in a different position than the other.
Man,
I expect Derek Carr to struggle mightily. I expect the Chiefs to get a road win. I expect the national audience to be shown a graphic at some point on Thursday Night Football that is something like Derek Carr against the NFL, Derek Carr versus the Chiefs. Because the reality is, Derek Carr against the Chiefs has been terrible. I'm fine throwing out his rookie season. Like, let's not use the rookie season against him. The guy is a young player. That team started 0-10.
Yeah.
Throw that out. So since then, since Derek Carr has been a Pro Bowl level quarterback, against the entire NFL, he has a quarterback rating of 98, except against the Chiefs, where it's 68. The Raiders are 21-11 against the entire NFL, except against the Chiefs, where they're 0-4. And the last time these two teams played, Derek Carr may have played the single most inefficient football game a quarterback's ever played. He threw the ball 41 times for 117 yards.
That's hard to do.
I looked this up this morning. Throwing the ball at least 40 times, getting less than 120 yards, it has happened twice in NFL history. Once the game I just mentioned, and once a Jesse Palmer game. And I think right after that game, he went in on The Bachelor and then went into broadcasting. Like, he was like, oh, this NFL thing ain't for me, boys. Yeah. And so this isn't really an indictment on the Raiders as a whole. This is a bad matchup for them. They haven't beaten the Chiefs in nearly 3 seasons. They've lost 5 in a row, and Derek Carr's been terrible against this team. So that's what I expect to see.
There's 2 teams that we start the season with high expectations as far as playoffs. And that'd be the New York Football Giants, who are sitting at 1-5, and the Oakland Raiders. Both of these teams we would thought would definitely be in the playoffs. There are people who predict both of these teams that they could participate in the Super Bowl based on their talent and based on what they did last year. There's no one in the AFC has more losses than the Raiders. So what do I expect to see? I expect this is a must-win situation. Like, for the Raiders to be in October before Halloween and their season to be over with? I mean, Marshawn Lynch came out of retirement for this? Like, Carr is one of the great young quarterbacks that we have in the league. One of the guys that you look at 2017 season, who are you looking forward to see play? Who do you think is going to grow their game to an elite level after last season? Unfortunately, got hurt right there. Wasn't able to participate in the last game or the playoffs. But there hadn't been more disappointment from a team than the Giants and the Raiders. So I expect them to play a great game. It's a divisional game.
You expect the Raiders to play a great game?
Yes. Well, they're going to try to play a great game. Like, this is it for them.
They have to play a great game.
Yes, and the players know it. It is a great matchup for them because it's easier to get the players' attention because they haven't had success against Kansas City. They realize the insurmountable lead that Kansas City has. The only way they can turn their season around would be on a Thursday night, that being tonight in Oakland. So I expect to see their best. Anytime you get into a matchup like this, especially when you only have a few days to prepare, you know what you have to rely on? Carry over from the other matchups. Now, I tell you, there's not carryover for the team from season to season, but when you haven't whooped the team in 3 years and you play them twice, you go right back to the tape because you can't practice a bunch. You go right back to the tape, and it's very empowering as a player when you see yourself dominating a team on a regular basis. So I expect Kansas City to take the field with a great deal of confidence, but I expect Jack Del Rio to get his team fired up because this is their season.
Nick, if I told you that the team with the best record in the AFC was going to play a team who had a quarterback that broke his back 2 weeks ago, a guy who can't catch footballs, and a guy who hadn't played football in a year, and who had the worst record in the AFC, I mean...
Right, only the Browns have more losses. Like, that's unbelievable. The Raiders are looking up in the standings. Nobody has a worse record in the AFC except for the Browns than the Raiders. Like, it is unbelievable that this team was 12-4 last year. So you're right if you would have said all those things. You'd be like, okay, well, this should be a walk for the Chiefs. This is, Cece, you mentioned at the beginning of your comments that people had the Giants doing really well and the Raiders doing really well. I obviously had the Giants doing really well.
I told you to stop telling people that. People forgot.
That's fine. Right. I'm trying to be honest here. I did not have the Raiders making the playoffs. And that wasn't done lightly. But there is, you talk about how there's no carryover season to season. You and I disagree somewhat on that. I think there are certain things that do carry over. I think offense tends to carry over. The Raiders have a very good offense. Turnover luck doesn't tend to carry over. Yeah. Defenses fluctuate year to year, which is why it's so amazing a team like New Orleans just every year is a terrible defense, it would seem. One thing that never carries over is how did you do in the close games? That 1 year you're going to do really well, 1 year you're going to do really poorly. The Raiders last year, nobody did better in one-score games than Oakland. Last year they played 11 games decided by a touchdown or less. They were 9-2. This year they've played 2 games decided by a touchdown or less. They are 0-2. So you want to look at, if you do want to see when you're doing, preseason projections, look at the teams that got to 11-12 wins with 7 or 8 double-digit victories.
Right. Oakland last year, Detroit, comeback wins.
Exactly right.
Great point.
Teams that, those close games that just, a couple breaks. Last week's a perfect example. The Raiders had the lead this weekend with 3 seconds left. Now, the San Diego or Los Angeles Chargers were about to kick a chip shot field goal, but they still had the lead with a minute left in the game, with 30 seconds left in the game, 10 seconds left in the game. Los Angeles gets the field goal. Those breaks were going for them last year. They're not going for them this year.
Yeah, it's tough to try to duplicate that type of success year in and year out. But the good teams, the good organizations, they know how to win games and even win them ugly. We're criticizing New England, but Oakland would love to be in the position that they're in because they've won games. They haven't been up to their expectations or their excellence that they expect, but winning is still the end goal. In Oakland, they must win tonight. even though we don't like must-win situations.
Oh, I love them.
Listen,
I'm a big fan of them.
And don't leave out the Chiefs, who, even though they're coming off short week this week, also would like to win, coming off the loss that they had last week.
Yes.
I mean, this is a game they really need to win to get back onto their own track.
Well, or else you start doubting yourself. If you go, again, keep in mind the number we've been telling people. Going into this game against the Steelers, the Chiefs they were 27-4 in their last 31 regular season games.
Explain that to people.
They won 10 straight to finish 2015. They went 12-4 in 2016.
Yes.
They were 5-0 to start this year. So they were 27-4. If you all of a sudden then lose twice in 4 days, you start questioning yourself. If you lose a game against a team you've dominated, you start questioning yourself. And just the raw numbers of, they then have 2 losses. New England's got 2. The Steelers, who have the tiebreaker with them, have 2. So, yeah, it's a big game.
But also mentally, fine, you can lose to Pittsburgh. They still played a great game. You don't want to lose to this Oakland team. Then you start really doubting yourself.
No, you don't want to do that, but you don't want to lose 2 in a row. You don't want to lose 2 in that span. You don't want to lose a divisional game. Like, if you could put a nail in the Raiders' coffin, you'd like to do that tonight.
Absolutely. In their year. And one thing we know we're not going to see tonight, or I'd be shocked if we see tonight, is turnovers by the Chiefs. Big handshake. How's everything going?
Everything is excellent, thank you.
Yeah? You in a good mood? Because we're in a really good mood today.
Yeah, I'm always in a good mood.
Okay.
I wake up and I'm just going to make it a great day.
Just needed confirmation
Why not?
on that.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Something good's going to happen.
Well, let's talk Patriots and Falcons. Atlanta blew a 17-point lead last week, which is 8 points less than the lead they blew in the Super Bowl last year. Not that anyone wants to live in the past. Falcons head coach Dan Quinn added that Atlanta can't keep looking back. Meanwhile, the Patriots barely beat the Jets. Mark, who has more to prove Sunday night? Is it the Falcons or is it the Patriots?
For me, it's the Falcons. I mean, based on what they did last week, losing the lead to Miami. And let's face it, man, this is a Miami team that, they haven't scored more than 20 points all season long. They're a team that was just stumbling around on the offensive side of the ball. To let them come back in the fourth quarter like that, and then based on past history, based on the Super Bowl history, you would have to think the Atlanta Falcons, there's more pressure on them. They're on offense. They were a juggernaut last year. They haven't figured out their offensive rhythm yet to this point. So I would think there's a lot more pressure on the Atlanta Falcons.
I totally agree with you that this pressure lies squarely on the Falcons side of things. Not that the Patriots want to lose a third game at home, but it's not just that the Falcons have lost 2 in a row. They've lost 2 in a row at home. And this is about as rare as anything you'll see in the NFL. They've lost 2 games where they were double-digit favorites. They were a 10-point favorite against Buffalo. At kickoff, they were a 13-point favorite against Miami, and they lost both of those football games. And all of a sudden, to go back to what we were discussing last segment about how the Raiders last year, they squeezed out some close games. The Falcons have one clear victory this year. That was week 2 against Green Bay. Week 1, there is a pass from Mike Glennon into the end zone that is not held on to. That beats them. Week 3, there is a pass to Golden Tate tackled at the inch line that gets overturned. This team easily is sitting at 1-4, 2-3. And so they haven't played a game I think they would consider a really good game since week 2. So I agree with you.
But is it fair to say that the good teams win those close games and the bad teams don't? Giants, I mean, this is the same conversation we have. The Giants easily could have 2 or 3 more wins based on inches. So maybe there's a little bit of luck, and maybe the seasons shake out that the teams that are a little bit better are going to win those really close ones, and the teams that aren't, and that's why the Raiders sit where they are and the Falcons sit where they are.
Well, we as athletes, we believe that the better teams, they get better bounces. And the better teams or the more professional, they don't complain about the bad bounces because over the course of time, the bad bounces, they work out for both teams. The bad calls, they work out for both teams. But back to the question is, who has more pressure on them? It's got to be the Pats, man. Like, it's based on expectations. Because Atlanta, they could lose this game. And, you know, we'll say, man, we've seen this before. You know, NFC South, New Orleans did it, Carolina did it, now Atlanta's doing it. Every year someone else wins the division, and then that team next year takes a few steps backwards. But in New England, the expectation is excellence. Defensively, they're the worst team in the history.
Through 6 games.
Through 6 games. And they're facing the Atlanta Falcons that could explode on them. So let's just take them by units. That defense is under extreme amount of pressure going against the Falcons and what they can present from formation, explosive package, personnel. They have to double team Julio Jones. So now they only got 9 guys playing defense. Now they haven't been really good with 11 guys on their defense. So now let's look at the pressure on Tom Brady. Tom Brady sees the game plan. He sees what the defense is doing. He realizes, man, I got to go out and get busy today. Like, I can't afford to have a bad game. You mentioned, what would the pressure be? What would the media be if they lose 3 games at home this early in the season? So, yeah, there's pressure on everyone. But the expectations and the excellence which they have in New England creates more pressure on them for this week. So, yes, there's pressure on Atlanta, but just like every week, New England, there's more pressure on them. And the reason why is because they don't have a defense and haven't found it yet.
You mentioned the teams that win the close games, the luck that's involved. My dad used to say this to me all the time. He said, luck has a smell of perspiration. And good teams expect to make those plays. Like you said, they don't complain when the ball doesn't bounce their way. They go out there and they make their own luck. And I think that's one of the things about New England. I always felt like this when I was playing a game that was, or a team that was scuffling. Their coaches are saying, hey, we got to go to New England. They're on a roll right now. They're starting to play really well. Guys, we have to be buttoned up. We can't make mistakes. And I was like, I'm just waiting for that team to make its first mistake. Because then that team sits there and goes, oh, gosh, here we go again, right? The first turnover, the first bad play, the first thing that doesn't go Atlanta's way. The next thing you know, you're like, oh, here we go. You know, we are out of this rhythm. We are out. And you lose confidence.
Yes.
And so for me, obviously that defense in New England is pathetic right now. But I just look at the confidence of the Atlanta Falcons, new offensive coordinator, all the different issues they have. They've got great players, and they're not putting together. I've got to think deep down in their head, they're minus some confidence about being able to get those things done.
Just talk about the close games for a moment, and then we can go back more directly to this game. Listen, sometimes you lose, to use the team you brought up, a close game because the other team hits a 61-yard field goal at the gun when you're staring at overtime and you're like, damn, like, you know what I mean? That was
Philadelphia wins the game over the Giants.
Yeah, that's just unlucky and unfortunate.
But I would look at the play before that when the longest pass completion of the game to that point was 14 yards, and they completed a 19-yarder on the corner route to Alshon Jeffrey.
Totally fair.
Right.
But the point that I'm building to is, and sometimes you win a close game because you make the play at the end. But the 2 close games I'm talking about against Chicago and Detroit for Atlanta, it wasn't a pass broken up in the end zone. It was a pass dropped in the end zone.
It was 3 passes dropped in the end zone.
That whole series.
3 passes dropped in the end zone. And on 4th down, they sacked the quarterback. There was 3 drops.
There were 3 chances where I would say the game is out of Atlanta's hands.
It's a 24-23 win to the Chicago Bears. Absolutely.
And then there's the game against Detroit where the referees say Detroit wins.
Yes.
Touchdown. The game is out of your hands again. It took what was up to until the Jets-Pats game, the most controversial overturn of the season. And so I look at that and I say, man, sometimes you do make your own luck. And sometimes you just get lucky. And I think that's where Atlanta is right now.
Well, New England, I will utilize the play versus the Jets. All right? The tight end's open. He's going into the goal line. New England players, they didn't have to chase him. They had 3 guys rally to the ball in the play that you call the most controversial play that we've seen this season. I, like a few people, like only a few people, thought that it was a fumble and they were going to get the ball at the 20-yard line. But you know who thought that first? New England defensive players. They're the ones who alerted the referees that he had bobbled the ball, that he had fumbled the ball. You know the reason why? Because they've been coached up on that more so. So people talking about making breaks for yourself. New England's defenders knew the rules and knew that he had bobbled the ball, which led to the overturn of the touchdown. So people can talk about being lucky. Being smart and being prepared leads to a lot of good things happening for you.
Lonzo Ball faces the Clippers tonight in one of the most anticipated NBA debuts in recent memory. Lonzo, who went number 2 overall to the Lakers, dominated the Summer League, taking home MVP honors. Now he's excited for the real deal.
I mean, he's grown men now, so every night in, night out, they're going to be strong. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just do everything I can to, help the name of my jersey get a win, and just take it one game at a time.
All kidding aside, when we joke about expectations, give me realistic expectations for this kid as he begins to start his first NBA season.
Rookie of the year. That's the realistic expectations. That's not being unfair. This guy was the number 2 pick of the draft. If they redid it just based on the way the number 1 pick shoots free throws, Markelle Fultz, he'd probably be the number 1 pick of the draft. Listen, I'm hopeful for Markelle, but this thing right there ain't gonna work, man.
Do it again.
So this thing right there ain't gonna work. Lonzo's has the expectations to win Rookie of the Year, and he's going to be doing it with a heavy burden of not. I guess his father put him in the spotlight, and now he's got to thrive under those. In that situation. I was thinking this morning, how many NBA players are we going to be talking about on a daily basis? Like Giannis, the Greek Freak last night, first game of the year, throws up a 37-13. Doesn't make the show. Anthony Davis.
You tried, though.
I tried.
You were fighting for
I
it.
tried. Anthony Davis last night throws up a 33-15, I believe. Doesn't make the show. Like LeBron is relevant every day. The Warriors are relevant every day. The defending MVP, Russell Westbrook, is relevant every day. And 4th on that list, I believe to be this young man. Because of the team he plays for, because of his father, because of everyone that knows basketball sees what the upside is with him. So the fair expectations are Rookie of the Year. And if he plays much below those expectations, man, he's going to be put through the meat grinder now.
It's going to be a tough transition. I think he's very, very talented. I think he's in the right spot. The things that I'm worried about, because what are the expectations? If you're a top 5 pick, your goal should be to be Rookie of the Year. All right? Your goal should be to be all rookie NBA. Like those are realistic. Now, given that the Lakers, and he's basically gifted a starting position, that makes his job a lot easier. But what I'm concerned about, a number of things. The talent around him. I don't believe that in the next 2 years, Brandon Ingram's going to be a superstar. For one, he can't make enough shots. He doesn't have an NBA body. So Lonzo's playing with a very young group of players. Randall, a former top pick. He only has one hand. He can only dribble and shoot with his left hand. He's not very athletic. The coaching staff is very, very young. What do young coaching staffs do to young players? They play them a lot of minutes. I want you to think about the point guards he's going to face, not only in the NBA, but in the West. So I'm worried about his physical body. I'm worried about him getting injured. I'm worried about his body getting worn out. Now, I think that the Lakers, I think they should develop him. But I think the Lakers, you don't want to win too many games. The Lakers need another high draft pick, and they still need someone else to come from Cleveland and someone else to come from OKC for them to be a legitimate. So I think Rookie of the Year is a legitimate goal. What I'm concerned about, the players he's playing with, their inability to put the ball, because he is a pass-first player.
No doubt.
Who's going to get buckets for them? All right? So If he passes the ball and guys aren't getting buckets, then he's more intended to become more selfish. And watch the number of minutes that he plays.
I'm going to hop in here with a couple of intangibles. You talked about all the things you're worried about. The one thing I'm not worried about is the way he's going to be received in Los Angeles. We are talking constantly about another rookie here in New York who has gotten a perennial pass, and that's Aaron Judge. He did amazing things. Crowd loved him. New York loved him. New York embraced him. You said it. New York needed another Derek Jeter, another, big Yankee hero. And if this guy did nothing else after the first half of the baseball season, they would still love him. I think Lonzo Ball is going to be something similar. I think the Lakers are craving somebody. They haven't had a NBA superstar since Kobe Bryant. They would love this kid to be that guy. He's not going to most likely put up those kind of numbers, but even if he just skates by, I think one thing he's not going to have to worry about is going to be the thing a lot of people in these big cities worry about is when the fans and the media get on you, and I think he gets a chance.
Acceptance is critical. And him being from L.A. and being able to play his college basketball in Los Angeles and now playing his pro basketball, that's a great point. They are going to invite him in, and they'll be more patient with him.
I just want to, just for the audience real quick, think about the best teams in NBA history over the last 30 years. And when you close your eyes and you think about them, what you're visualizing. The Lakers in the 80s, it's the passing, because Magic made it infectious. The Celtics in the 80s, it's the passing, because Bird made it infectious. The Bulls in the 90s, it wasn't the passing. It was Jordan going to the bucket. It was the Lakers in the 2000s. It wasn't passing. It was Shaq dominating, Kobe dominating. The Warriors right now, it's the passing leading to open shots. Lonzo's passing will be infectious. Lonzo is that type of unselfishness will lead to great visual basketball.
When Magic got there, Magic was passing to Kareem. Magic later got Worthy. Magic got Cooper.
No, there's agreed. You guys, he's going to have a lot of potential assists that don't end in assists. I get that, but the passing is going to be infectious.
Today is Big Ten Basketball Media Day, and one coach is going to get a ton of attention is Tom Izzo, who led Michigan State Spartans to a conference championship. I'm just going to keep reading while CC is talking underneath the bed that I am reading. He did all that last season in his 7th Final Four of the year before that, and we're getting him today before anyone else does. Coach Izzo, I apologize for you having to listen to both of us talk at the same time, but I do it every single morning, so welcome to my life. It's great to have you here.
Well, it's great to be part of the show.
How's New York been so far in the short
period
of time?
You know, one night here, I'm still alive and survived, didn't get lost. Had a good meal last night and ready for media day later on today, but this is a great way to wake up.
Fantastic. I'll talk about some expectations this season. Sometimes it's a dreaded word we use here before the NFL season, but there's something about the start of college basketball that just feels super exciting. Big Ten's getting underway. Tell me about expectations for your team throughout the season this year.
Personally, I like expectations. You know, I've been there when we didn't have many. That's not as much fun, you know. Maybe it's a little more relaxing, but it's not as much fun. And this year we have high expectations at our place, rightfully so. I just got to make sure I don't screw it up.
Coach, high expectations for you, would that mean automatically the Final Four? Or what I would
automatically.
Say, okay, easy. I would consider Coach a friend of mine. And I'm going to say this. He's the best coach in college basketball per talent. He gets more out of kids than anyone else in college basketball. So Jenna says she likes expectations. You like expectations. What are the expectations at Michigan State? Because I know they're not only on the court. What is your message every year to them?
Hey, become a better player, become a better student, become a better person. You know, the triangle of things that we're trying to do, make them better in everything that they do. We were lucky. I had a superstar, Miles Bridges, who decided not to go. Shocked me. That was a good shock, by the way.
Yes, he would have definitely been a lottery pick.
Yeah, you know, so he came back, and we've added a couple other wrinkles. We had a very young team last year. We played 4 freshmen a lot. Now they're all sophomores. We got a superstar freshman in Jaren Jackson. So expectations are high, you know. I don't know. You got to be lucky. 2 years ago, we had Denzel Valentine in that group. It was a very good team. We got beat in the first game by Middle Tennessee, you know. So you know how that goes. It's sports, but I think expectations are very high, and I'm proud of it.
Now, Coach, you're a grinder, and very few coaches starting the season would even give us the insight. We know about Bridges coming back, tremendous addition for you, but Jaren Jackson, all right, give us some particulars, all right? McDonald's All-American, one of the best kids in the high school basketball last season. What will we be seeing from him? What type of player?
Well, 7'4" wingspan, so he's long, 6'10" and a half. like a 3.8 student. So he's kind of got all the intangibles. That's why I said I can't screw it up, if you know what I mean, Chris.
Yes.
But just a great kid. He can shoot the three. He can post up. Dad played 9 years in the NBA, played for John Thompson at Georgetown. So he comes from good stock. Yeah. Mother works out here for the WNBA. So, like I said, this one is a guy that I think is going to be special.
Is there something you do that you think's different than maybe other coaches or special? Because one thing that has become almost a standard of Michigan State basically since the Mateen-Cleaves class, which you guys won the title and you guys, was it 3 straight Final Fours? So you guys are not a team that people are like, okay, they're going to go 30-3, and then we'll see them in the like. You guys have 7 losses, 9 losses. You guys seem to find your footing though at the exact right time of year typically. Is that a coaching style? Do you try more things out early in the year? Are you putting your team in intentionally adverse situations? Like, what's going into that?
I'd say, Nick, that's the key for us. We played, I think, one of the tougher non-conference schedules for 20 years. I mean, again, this year we have Duke, we have Notre Dame. We're out in the Phil Knight Classic out there where we could run into, the DePauls and Oregon or North Carolina, different teams like that. So we do normally have the most amount of losses, but I don't always think that's bad. Sometimes this social media era, kids can get big-headed, think they're better than they are. When you lose a couple games, it's not always all bad. You can learn from a loss just like you can learn from a win.
How does the Big Ten season basically prep you for the tournament? I mean, you have a lot of competition within your conference as well.
We do, and it's a physical league, and it's a possession league. So I think what happens is as you get into the tournament, those things become more evident. And I think the Big Ten has been very good at preparing us over the years. We got a lot of great coaches in the league. Now, we've lost a couple of guys, but it's a league filled with great coaches and great programs. And maybe the biggest thing, I think it's been 41 straight years we've led the country in attendance. So everywhere you go, you're playing in front of a packed house, even at Ohio State.
Can you believe it? We had Jay Wright on the show yesterday, and I talked to him about how, unlike in the NBA maybe, at the beginning of every college season, you're almost starting completely fresh, right? Because the kids are young. You haven't had a lot of them for many, many years. You almost have to reintroduce yourself, your message, what the direction is on this team, who you are, what it means to be a Spartan, all of it. What is that like for you, and what is the first couple weeks of getting these new guys in and really getting that?
I think that's a great point, because this day and age between kids transferring and kids leaving early for the NBA, what we've done a pretty good job of, and I think the great programs, I think in football or basketball, we have a lot of guys that come back. Magic's parents still live there, so he's back a lot. Draymond Green, Gary Harris, Valentine, kids like that, or when they come back a lot, that's what the summers are for. In fact, we just built a new parts to our arena. We've got an NBA locker room in there, so that when those guys come back, they got their own locker room now. And they set the standards for the young kids. Instead of the coach, it's the former players.
That's amazing, the relationships. And Coach and I have been friends for a few years. You're so inviting, not only to your alumni, and does it make your job easier, though, when you have someone like Magic Johnson, when he's the spokesperson for Michigan State, he's around there, he's always around your kids, and does that make your job easier? And what are your expectations? Magic has a new role this year. He's taken over the management of the Los Angeles Lakers. What do you expect to see from the Lakers this season?
Believe it or not, I do expect some serious improvement. I mean, if you know Irvin at all.
Coach don't mess around.
No, I'm not going to put the pressure on him that he's probably putting on me,
right.
As far as where we are. But if you know the guy at all, everything he touches, I mean, when he comes back, every Final Four, every NCAA tournament, a lot of regular season game, he speaks to our team. I catch myself in the back listening, you know what I mean? When he speaks, I listen. But I think they're going to be improved. They're still going to be very young, but he'll set the groundwork of the culture that he wants there, and that culture, I think, will be special.
Coach, talking about culture, we can't have you on the show and not talk about the culture in college basketball. Rick Pitino, with recently being fired from Louisville, and the scandal that's going throughout college basketball. Give us some insight on how this has changed college basketball and how it's impacted you personally.
Well, right now, there's a little bit of confusion. I mean, but remember this, it's like everything else. It's like the racial issues that we're going through, all the other things that happen in the world. You got to remember, Judd Heathcote used to have a 10% rule. You know, 10% of us maybe are doing the wrong things. Probably 10% in your profession are doing the wrong things. 10%, you know, even as far as
In
police
society,
and
yes.
yes, everybody. And I don't want to weigh things on 10% and not knowing everything that went on. You know, I was, you know, Rick Pitino was a friend of mine and what he's going through and other people. But I do think we need to take a serious look on what we're doing in college athletics. And sometimes things like this make you do that. So we need some keeping it together. I think it's hard on these young kids. They're getting advice from so many different people now. And you and I have talked about that over the years. And keeping your posse, if it's one small, is important. Your circle tight. Yes.
All right. I really need to ask you about Draymond Green. But before I do that, I have to ask you the most important question you're going to be asked in all your media stuff. When is the last time you played your accordion? Who was the audience? And what song did you play?
You know, I played my accordion. Can you believe this, Chris? I got an accordion when I was about 13, and then I broke my hand playing football, and I never practiced after
That's
that.
why a lot of people don't play football, because they can't play
I
the
love
accordion
football.
out.
Wait a second, football.
Thank you, Coach. When Coach comes back in the
This is
second
our
half, he's
favorite.
coming back and going to be in the NFL.
Bang to basketball. Let's talk football, right, Chris? I
If you
love
know
football.
Coach Izzo, you
Yeah,
know
I
he
love football.
loves, besides beating Michigan, his
Yeah.
second love is football. So
That's
those are
right.
things we
Talk
have in
about
common.
the accordion, not
Okay,
football.
So the accordion is once a year on my radio show at Christmas. So the 21st, 2nd, whatever it is, my team comes, sings, there's 250 people there, and I usually play about 6 Christmas songs. There's no polkas and all that. I'm not very good at that, but the Christmas songs, I'm really good at.
That is so you
He's
do it in front of a
anti-polka.
live
You got
audience. A live audience. You had 250
Yeah,
people there.
yeah.
You're up there with the accordion.
Yeah.
That's so great. All right, now let's
Thank
talk
God my players are such bad singers, it drowns out the accordion.
The accordion player.
All right, Draymond Green. So where do I even start with Draymond? When you were coaching him, did you think he could be? I think he's the most important player on a team that is, you know, on the best 3-year run we've seen in the NBA in recent memory. I know you love Draymond, even if at times you love to hate Draymond. It was tough. Did you?
Oh, you love to hate me a few times.
Yes.
too,
Did you ever see this impact in the NBA?
No, I didn't. I got to admit, I didn't. And the interesting thing the other night, you know, they're 13 up. He goes down with a little tweak of his knee, I think it was. And
fell
they
apart.
lose that game, you know. And I've talked to Steve Kerr a lot. You know, Draymond's an interesting guy, but he's really a special guy. I mean, you would love him. I mean,
Yes.
he's got a heart this big. He actually came up for spring football.
Yeah, it
that
wasn't
one
really
year.
good. That football's a lot harder than it looked.
He was a receiver, so that was a
No,
little
he was an
easier.
awful tight end. He wasn't a wide receiver. We wouldn't take him. He was a bad tight end.
But Draymond, he's a winner. You know, that's what he was when I got him. As a freshman, he played 13 minutes a game, but the last 10 minutes of every game, it seemed like he was in, you know, led us to a Final Four. He's just a winner. He has a winning qualities. He's got some toughness that it's not the norm for a basketball player.
But when you
That
say you
football
talk to
toughness.
Steve Kerr, you mean it's like mutual therapy sessions. He calls you, he's like, here's what Draymond said to me today, and you're like, listen, Steve, I've been there, don't worry about it. That's what we're talking about, right?
Once in a while.
Okay,
but he
yeah.
also says, you know what, it'd be hard to win like we've won without him. And so, and that's the same way I feel. I love the guy.
Coach, you have a tradition of donning a very interesting costume for Midnight Madness. I think it would be only appropriate for you to share what you will be here on this program right this second when I stop answering
Is this a
this
Fox
question.
special or what?
We're going to break in with the regular
I barely
We got
even
the
know
Big
what
Ten.
they usually don't tell me till Monday, which was a couple days ago of that week. And the only reason I say that is because they figure I'll chicken out of rappelling down from a ceiling or riding in on a horse or, you know, some of the things I've done, shot out of a cannon. There's been some interesting events over the years. But I'm starting to mellow down now, getting a little older. And this year we got such a good team. I kind of want to focus on them. But we're going to try to do some NBA things, a little bit of all-star rendition. So I'll give you that secret.
Little tease.
Little tease.
All right, we'll take
One of his
that.
good friends says, this is the basketball coach who would be coaching football if he could. That's what Nick Saban says about coaches.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Coach.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Chris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.